And I'd gotten everything I needed out of McDonald's. I needed to do something else, move on.
Sometimes that's how you know, I think, that you're ready for that next chapter is you've gotten everything that you need out of that previous chapter.
Yep.
You just know.
That's right. I'd gotten everything I'd needed, and I feel like there was a higher power that said, you are ready for more. You've done this. You've done everything you can. You've reached the apex.
Yeah.
You've reached the peak, the mountain peak. I think now you can start at the bottom of another mountain and climb that. Do you know what I mean?
I do. So what was the next mountain you climbed?
Well, the mountain I decided to fall off from, I went to nothing. I'd resigned and given 6 weeks notice because I knew that my tenure was so long that it was going to be very difficult for them to replace me.
Yes.
And
Always
so
thinking about other people, even when you're burnt out, right?
Yeah, totally. I went to nothing. I put the resignation in. There was devastation associated with that. And then a week later, I got a job at ANZ.
True.
After my resignation.
So were you applying for a lot of jobs? How did
No,
you
I'd applied for one job.
What?
Me and Zena, I'd put my resignation in and then I freaked out because we had a mortgage.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, now we need to pay this mortgage down. Now we're down to one income, poor Zena. She'd worked for ANZ by that time. And she said, you know what, let's just go online. Thank God for computers. We had computers back then. It was 2000. It was 2005 at this point.
Okay.
05. Got on the computer. She goes, let's just look at ANZ and see what's there. The most junior job I was happy to take, coming from all the experience that I'd had as senior as I was, And by that time I was earning over $50,000 a year, maybe close to 60. Which is a big deal when you've got a mortgage and you go into nothing.
Yeah.
In 05. And we applied for the most junior job that was there. Just took that one and just go, okay, let's just write the application, submit it. And then I got a call a week later while I was at work in my during my resignation period. And they said, oh, we love your application. Would you like to accept an offer to work full time for ANZ? And I was like, yes. Yes.
Sign me up.
I didn't even care what I was getting paid. It was
yes before you knew what the offer was.
I did.
Yep.
I didn't even know what I was going to get my remuneration. They don't post that stuff. They don't tell you what you're going to be remunerated, online. It was a role, an EFT disputes officer.
Okay.
At ANZ. Anyway,
so in the call center?
No, it was back office.
Okay.
It was basically dealing with disputes on FPOS machines.
Of course,
FPOS.
Yep.
So it was back office, and I took the job. And you know what? They said, "Oh, can you start next week?" And I was still working full time at Macca's, and I had to work my resignation period, and I didn't want to tell my employer. And so I said, "Yes, I'll do the training." So here I am doing 2 full-time jobs at the one time, and thankfully at the time I was a store manager. And being store manager meant that I was also doing the rosters for the managers under me. And so I just did I rostered myself on for nights so that I could work days at ANZ. And I rostered myself on weekends. I basically shifted the scheduling so that I could make both work.
Oh my gosh. So you worked, how long what was the crossover?
A month.
Oh my
6 weeks. So I had 6 week resignation period.
Yeah.
So by that time, like a week into my resignation period, I was working. It was 4 weeks of training at ANZ. I mean, I got the job, so of course I was working there for as long as I could. So it was 6 weeks of 2 full-time jobs at once. Thankfully, I had the flexibility.
You must have been exhausted.
I was pretty tired, but you know what? I was on a high because I was like, I'm getting out of here. There was a light at the end of the tunnel.
And a new pathway.
Yes.
And I think when you've got that excitement, you can do it.
Yes.
And you can run on adrenaline for a while and, you can manage it. But oh my goodness.
I was 34. I think I was 32 or what? I don't know. Do the math. 20 years from now. 34. I'm 54. So I'm in my 20th year. And so
goodness.
I went into solution mode and I applied for a job at People Assist in HR.
Yeah.
6 months later. And I didn't get the job.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't get the job, but then 3 months later they called me and said, "Are you still interested?"
Oh, great.
And so my career
I know how your whole career from then on went, but I also still feel relief that you got the job.
Yeah. funny is that?
3 months later.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so that
okay.
was my career in the organization was born from there. From that
Right.
point, 20 years later, here
And
I
then
am.
do you want to give everyone a bit of a, like, I know what that next sort of piece is, but do you want to give everyone else a rundown of how your career's progressed since then?
Yeah, I mean, I started in the bottom ranks. I mean, in the kind of contact center, like in HR. Did that, worked that with, did that for a little bit, and then we had a new CEO, and we had a bit of a restructure, and of course, that meant that you and I got to work together in the same, in similar, in the same capacity. And then I feel like you and I that's when we kind of grew up, didn't we? Like in that space, and we had some really good friends out of that. And
it was an amazing team.
Yeah, and then changes in the organization moved us across to employee relations together. And I was, you were an advisor, and I was a consultant in projects type work, initiatives and stuff like that, working in data. So that kind of gave me an exposure to work in different things like governance and data and strategy, working with the leadership team, on different initiatives.
Is that combining all of the worlds? You talked about your love for business and data, like numbers, and then also now you're bringing in strategy as well, governance.
Yep.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Don't you think sometimes like not really even where we end up, but like significant roles that we have like draw on so much of our past experience, and it's like, oh, that's maybe why I did all of that. It's sort of like, feels like, you can sort of have this, like the threads of a tapestry all get woven together, and all of a sudden it kind of makes sense, when it all comes together in roles like this.
And that's why I say it's a bit of resilience. It's a bit of sort of doing what it's a bit of yourself, pushing yourself in uncomfortability.
Definitely.
Through those
How important is that,
uncertainties. Right? It's super important. I think it's important. I don't know that comfort gets you anywhere. I think when you're too comfortable, you become complacent. You become this person who doesn't get to see the rest of what life can offer.
Yeah.
I think we all ought to. I think the lesson for me there is that we ought to put ourselves in positions of challenge.
Yeah.
For whatever you can cope with, whatever you're capable of handling. And I do think we're more capable than we think we are. I think we ought to, as people, we ought to give ourselves a chance at just pushing ourselves to the hardest possible challenges that we can put ourselves into, because you really don't know what you're capable of unless you do you go through those hard times. You really don't know what you can do unless you really throw yourself in the depths of the most uncertain times. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as a compass. You're in life. Like your compass is whatever you make it to be. And I think that if you can find ways to put yourself in uncomfortability, I think that's where you really find yourself. So it is a bit of that resilience, pushing yourself through positions of discomfort. It's about timing and luck. And it's also about just giving yourself a chance at just trying things,
And why is this so meaningful to you? Because I can feel a shift in, as you share this, I can feel a shift in maybe your energy or, I'm right here with you in the conversation. You've drawn me in like a vortex. Right. Why is this so meaningful to you? And tell me, I don't know, is that the right question?
Meaningful?
Like, why is this so important? Like you speak like you've done this over and over again. Somehow this is at the core of you.
Yeah, I think it's important because when I was growing up, I wanted direction.
Yes.
I wasn't given the answers to anything. Nobody handed to me a handbook, even though I actually wanted it. I wanted it. I wanted that compass. I wanted the guidance. I wanted the handbook. I wanted somebody to hold my hand. But whatever I wanted, I never really got. And I I didn't make it obvious either. I didn't tell people that that's what I wanted. I just innately wanted that for myself. And I think the reason I'm passionate about it is because, for that very reason, that I wasn't given the answer, but the answer was in me. Um, you
Mic
know what I mean?
drop moment.
Yeah.
How?
Pull myself
Let's-
together.
It's all right. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer is in you, and that is such a huge revelation when we find that, when we
Yeah.
realize that. When did that happen for you?
I mean, it was quite a revelatory. It's quite revelatory when you realize. I think I was in my late 20s. You know, I talked about in our episode, I talked about my brain forming in my late 20s, 25, 26. And that was a revelatory point for me.
Is this where you realize that there's no handbook, that no one else has given you the answers, that the compass doesn't lay with your mum's advice, for instance, or, you know, family members or someone else telling you what to do and how to do it, that actually you take life into your own hands and you realize, no, I'm the one driving the bus here.
Yeah, it was the Derricks of the world. You know, the guy that told
Yeah.
me, stay
Stay
thirsty.
thirsty.
It was when I learned the saying, the world is your oyster, I sought to understand actually what does that mean,
Mm.
you know? What does it mean when people say that?
Yeah.
And I think I just drew wisdom from other people that had been there before. Sorry.
And I think this is what Thirstee Coconuts is about, isn't it, Rach?
Yeah.
About sharing how people figured out how to make the world their oyster, how to carve their own path, sharing the highs and the lows of, you know, figuring out, finding ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. I haven't got anyone to cry on my show like you have. It's well
Special
done.
talent, Rach.
I know you're good at that, and that's what you did for me as well. Like I was, you know, when I realized what I was capable of doing through your session.
So tell me about what that meant to you. Didn't use these words, but to find yourself, to realize that the answer was within. What did that mean for you?
It was a freeing moment.
And was it a moment?
Yeah, it was. I was in my unit. And I was renting, and I'd seen everybody else, you know, younger than me, buy homes and, you know, get assets, all the things that I knew that I would need.
Yeah.
I just was like, said to myself in my unit, something's got to change. You know, I'm not who I know I can be. And that was the realization that actually the answer is within me, and the solution is with me. If I don't make that change, I'm not gonna be who I want to be. You know what I mean?
I love this so much. Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean. And I think there's a real element of grief that comes along with that realization of that, you know, you haven't quite met your potential yet. And that the only person that's going to give you that is you.
Yeah.
That is such a defining moment in people's characters and lives, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing it. I could do it for others, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we can all tell everyone else how to do it, but can we do it ourselves?
That's right.
Can the rubber meet the road?
Totally.
And can we walk our talk? I feel like this is the biggest thing that we need to master in our lives, isn't it? Can we do the things that we say are possible?
And I was frustrated with myself. I thought, I'm better. I know I can do this, but why am I not doing it?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm such an emotional person, like you can see here. I'm obviously, you know, but I thought
You're in good company, right?
I know. I thought I I can't just be driven by emotions all the time, right? I've got to be when I go to work, I switch on. I put on my brains. I turn my brains on when I go to work. Why can't I do that in my personal life? Like I know how to solve problems. I'm a problem solver. I do it at work. I do it every day. And how come I just can't get that right for my own self?
Right.
You know?
And this is what I shared about with you from my personal story too on the other episode that we recorded, that my 20s and a fair chunk of my first half of my early 30s was me figuring out my own crap, me figuring out my emotions and why I felt like I did and where did it stem from and all of that. And that is
that why you always say feeling, your feelings, not your, sort of
yeah, I feel like
yeah.
I do. Yeah. Because that emotional well-being space, if you can be emotionally regulated, then to me the world is your oyster. You can springboard into anything else. But when you feel
So
like your
true.
emotions are your Achilles heel and, like you get really upset at the drop of a hat seemingly, or like, you feel like you can be overwhelmed by your emotions or they're not helpful, like that's a really awful thing. So I wonder if, I don't think this is for everyone, but I do think that generally we're sorting that stuff out in our 20s and 30s.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe if we haven't already mastered that. And, sometimes later on too. So, okay, well, let's go back to you, Rach. So it was at this time where you decided that you saw other people had what you wanted. I really love this actually because to me, I don't look at it like jealousy. I look at it like that person has that experience or that thing or whatever. I'd like to have that too. It ignites something in me, which is not jealousy. It is, if they can have it, I wonder how I can create that for myself. And so I really love getting inspired in that way. So what did that cultivate in you?
Yeah, that was exactly, and that is always the feeling that that's the approach I always take. I'm not a jealous person. I don't know jealousy,
That's pretty cool because a lot of people really have trouble with that, don't they?
Yeah, I always find that challenging that people do that. I always look at, I'm an admirer, right? I look at people with admiration. I look at others with admiration and I think, how did they do it?
Yeah, I'm a cheerleader. Like I will celebrate everyone else's wins and stuff. And then sometimes I'll be like, but also, can you tell me how to do it? Like,
exactly.
and that's what we're here for today,
100%
Rach.
done. I like seeing people win.
Yeah.
Because I know what the feeling of winning feels like. And I thought to myself, if I'm winning in my professional life, why am I not winning in my personal life?
Yep.
And I need to see others do the winning. I love watching winning. I was used to like watching game shows and want people to win. Who wants to be a millionaire? I want that person to be a millionaire. Like I would never do that for myself. I would love to I love seeing people win. And I think that's a great question that you ask me is that why do you always want to do this? And I just think because I love the feeling of winning, whatever that winning feels like for you, you've got to fall in love with winning something, whether you're winning the day because you've helped somebody, you made someone smile, that's a win. And that's a great feeling, right? You take every little step you take is a win. And so I just like to win. I look at other people and I admire them and I think, oh, I want to do that, what they're doing, not who they are. I just want to do what they're doing. And
but
I want that feeling.
Version of that too, yeah?
Yes.
Your version of what that might be.
That's exactly right.
So what is your version of winning?
My version of winning is a great question. It is having, and I knew...
Which we could also talk about as success, couldn't we?
100%.
Yeah.
My definition of winning is having great relationships, having a partner who loves me unconditionally. My definition of winning is having a career that you feel grateful that you can learn through, and that you wake up every day and you're learning something new, and that you work in an environment that is respectful of, kind of who you are as much as possible. My definition of winning is also living in a harmonious home, that my palace is harmonious, and that I get to come home and I feel like I feel safe. My other definition of winning is having the freedom to go wherever I want to go in the world. If I want to pack up and go to, to somewhere in Europe, I can do that because I've worked hard enough to get there. So it's travel wherever you want to go, do what you want to do, not have to worry about what things cost on the supermarket shelf. For me, that's winning.
Very
if somebody
pertinent at this point in time where so much of the conversation is around cost of living.
And you know what else is winning to me? If someone comes to me and says, would you like to donate for this cause? I can say, yes, I would. And I do that. I donate thousands of dollars every year to homeless charities, to I love animals, so I donate to the RSPCA. I donated to the Doctors with Borders. I donate. Zena had to stop me from donating. Because every time I either went to the supermarket and I would go to those shopping centers and you had those people with their clipboards and they would come up to you.
Ding, 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 shows the right one.
Totally. I'm
Scored.
always led by emotions in that sense, right? So
Yeah.
there's a combination of my brain working and my emotions, my heart working together.
Yeah.
And so I always, every time someone comes to me with a clipboard, I think, okay, what is this one? What is this charity for? So I do donate a good portion of my earnings to charities, and it's to a point where I don't even know the money's gone there. Like I see the deductions and I think, oh yeah, I'll donate to that. So I love that. And that to me is winning. And I think that when you start earning a living and you can figure out how to do a budget and you can figure out how to stay within your means, but also support others, to me, that's winning. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And how have you gotten to that place, Rach?
Oh gosh. I mean, I told you my brain woke up and I picked up this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and I picked it up. I think I learned about him through Oprah show because I loved watching Oprah back then. I don't like Oprah anymore, but I loved her then.
Oprah in the 80s and 90s.
She was it. And I was like, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Gosh, I'm sick of being poor myself and I really want to get somewhere. So I picked up the book and it really resonated with me. Everything he said in that book about the stuff that I always ever wanted to know about. How do I buy my first home? How do I buy my first home? How do I invest my money? How do I do all these things? All the practical things that I have ever only wanted someone to tell me what to do.
Yeah, right.
And it was in there. The language was right for me at the time. It was the right size book. And it was like he was speaking to me. Everything I wanted to learn was in that book. That is
so cool. It was kind of one of those handbooks that you actually always wanted.
It was the handbook I wanted. It was
one of
the playbook.
The money playbook.
It was.
That is super cool.
And it was written in a way that he talked about his dad being the poor dad and his other dad, who was a friend, was his rich dad. And he spoke about it that his actual father had a more poor mentality. You go and work for an employer. You do all these things, but you save your money and all that sort of stuff. But he had this other dad who was his mentor, teach him about how to make your money work for you and that you can own businesses, you can run businesses, you can be an entrepreneur. And you had this quadrant of ways that you could, make your money grow. And so that's when my brain switched on. I was like, okay, it was just a transition for me. That was the trigger that I needed to, fire the gun.
That's so cool. What does firing the gun look like?
What did you do then? Firing the gun meant I had to revisit what I knew about setting up budgets.
Yep.
I bought myself a budget book. It was one of those green books that you write your accounting in. I bought myself a little A4 accounting book. And I just got my shit together, Don. Just got my shit together, picked up a pen and went, all right, I know how to do a budget. I've done it before. And my God, I work at a job where I have to stick to budgets and do P&Ls. So I wrote myself out a budget. That was the gun for me, actually. And then I saved and saved and saved. I just knew how to stick within my means. And what that meant for me was, all right, well, I know I've got gas, I've got electricity, I've got my rent, all the things that I knew the money was going out for. What did I have left and what can I now do with that? And you wouldn't believe it. As soon as I wrote a budget, I had so much money left over that I hadn't even, I didn't even know what the hell I was spending it on, back then. I thought to myself, what was I wasting my money on all this time? I can actually save. It was the mentality. I just didn't have the mentality. I stuck to my budget. That was the gun. And at that point, I realized, oh, wow. So I trajected out how much I could save, took Rich Dad, Poor Dad's advice. And then the next step was talking to a bank and going, hey, guess what? I've got this money. What, can I buy a house? Can I buy a house? And by that point, Zena and I had fallen in love, and we decided to do it together.
So cool.
And then we went to the bank, and they said, "Yep, you've got enough money to borrow a house." And then we just kept going on that, just stuck to our budget, and our budget looked like $30 each in cash that we had to spend a week. And when you spent that $30, that's all you had. It also meant $80 a week back then, so it's all relative. $80 a week was our groceries. That is it. And what Zena and I, we took this we were militaristic about the budget. Our $80 for groceries, we would go shopping. We had this list. We wrote down everything we wanted, and then we went to the supermarket. We wrote the price of everything next to the items, and we weighed all of our vegetables and all of our fruits. We weighed everything. We said, okay, well, it's 800 grams for this at this price, at, whatever it was per, gram or whatever. And then we also looked at the cans, and we were like, oh, that can is 250 grams, that it costs, $4.50. We divided that to figure out. We just wrote, we had columns on our list, and we wrote everything. And we knew we could project that $80 was what we needed, menu plan. And this is what I go on about on my Insta. Have a menu plan, have a budget, stick to your budget. Say that if you're going to say you're going to spend $30 a week, that's it. We knew, we gave each other physical cash, and we knew that if that physical cash was gone, that was it. You were done. But if you'd accumulated your $30 to the following week because you hadn't spent, then you got $60 to spend. Bargain. And that was a feeling, that was a win feeling as well, because you knew you set yourself small goals through the process, At the same time, you were growing your cash. By that point, Zena had worked in credit cards at the bank. She understood what credit cards, how you actually get around the credit card system, because she understood that. And so in those days, people were saying, do not get credit cards. And even I know they say that today. Don't get credit cards, whatever you do. But by that point, Zena had educated me on how the credit card system works. And so I took that and said, oh, I think I know what to do here. With our $50,000, let's put it into an interest-bearing account that grows at back then it was like 7%, which is really excellent. Let's put it into an interest-bearing account, and then with the credit card, let's buy our groceries and only use our credit card to pay our bills, right? Electricity, be very disciplined with it. And we knew that it has a cycle that you can spend within, and then it has a cycle that the amount is due. And over that time, it was a total of 45 days. And so I said to Zena, how about we do this? Let's get a credit card, pay the bills, pay the groceries, let the money that we have, that we get, sit in an interest-bearing account for 45 days, earn interest, and then you've made money on the fact that you haven't spent that money for 45 days. You've got it on your credit card. And then we paid the balance off every single time it was due. So we never, ever had an overdue credit. Never, even to this day, we never, ever have paid $1 in interest in credit cards because we knew exactly what we were doing. And that was a secret that I don't think everybody understood about credit cards. And if only if Zena hadn't worked in credit cards, I don't think I would have understood that. And I think people just failed on that front. So we used it as a tool to keep our money in interest-bearing accounts, let the interest grow, let the money grow, and then when the credit card is due, only a little bit of what we borrowed was coming out of our, actual money because we accrued interest, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
And then we looked at, and then by that point, we finally then got a deposit after saving. Long and short of it, that's how we approached our money on the investment side. And then we got our house, and we finally realized how you could then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, make money from property. And so the investing side, when we knew about equity, we learned about equity, we knew about capital growth, we knew about compound interest, so we learned about that. I just kept buying books about money. So Rich Dad Poor Dad was one book, and then I just kept buying book after book after book. By then, I'd learned so much about equity, capital, capital gain, credit card, interest, compound interest, all that sort of stuff I'd educated myself on.
This is so cool, Rach, because you said before, like you had all the answers within you. You knew you got to that realization. And then it seems to me that even knowing that you didn't have all of the information within you, somehow it gave you that confidence to go out and learn all about the things that you wanted to learn.
Absolutely.
Like you were the one that needed to learn.
Yep.
You were the one that needed to teach yourself or access the information. So cool. All right, keep going.
People will grow up and their parents will probably teach them. And my advice there to young people, that if your parents are teaching you about compound interest and if they're teaching you about budgets, bloody well do it. Like, go ahead and do it. That would be my advice. I would say, even if you don't like it or if it feels a bit strange, just do it because you won't regret a minute of it. That was when the gun had fired for me, and from then on, it was just.
I mean, they should be teaching this in high school, right?
I agree.
It should be part of the education, but I don't think it really is.
Yeah.
Well, not broadly.
I agree. I have a problem with the education system in that sense, that it teaches you, the things that you do need to learn, those skills. You learn a lot through school. Obviously, you learn about relationships and discipline and, being able to sit in a classroom and focus, listen to something and learn. You do, but life is missing, the relationships, the paying the bills, the sticking within your means, going out in a job and being told you're going to have to work with people that are freaking 15 years older than you. And you're going to have to manage those people as well. And you're going to be learning from people who are different, who have different backgrounds and upbringing and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's the stuff that is missing in schools. I don't think you should get every answer, because the rite of passage is going through your 20s and learning, and then getting to your 30s and going, okay, well, now I think I'm moving into my adult world.
Yeah.
But I do think we should learn the fundamentals at least and have a bit of a heads up. Heads up, this is going to be really hard.
I agree. So you learnt about all of those things: equity, compounding interest,
investments, property,
capital, all that. How did you? So then, what did you do?
Me and Zena went to seminars. We attended. Robert Kiyosaki came to Australia. We went to a seminar, and that was so life-changing. But we went to many seminars, and we taught ourselves all about life, like lifing. How am I going to fast track? I remembered how I felt when I looked at my friends who were younger than me doing it, and I thought, how am I going to fast track that? Because I want that. And so we just went hell for leather. We wrote our goals, and we wrote our goals all the way to retirement. We wrote our goals and we saw ourselves, what we wanted to look like when we were, what life had to look like when we were my age.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I'm 25 years now. Zena and I are in our 25th year. 25 years ago, we wrote our goals and we said, we're not going to stop at 1 year, 2 years from now. We're going to write all the way to retirement. That's what the books taught me. And so.
Long-term goals. What do you remember what those goals were? And would you be happy to
We've
share?
We've done everything. Yeah.
You've done them all? You've achieved them all?
Yeah, surpassed.
No way. All right, so cool. Do you want to share what your goals are?
Well, it was we had career goals, and we had income goals. We had goals about owning a home. We had goals about buying a car, and it was those goals. And then the goal was, what I'd learned in my books was, this one thing I took away was, what is your exit plan? So if you're going to accumulate all these assets, what then is going to be your exit plan? And so then our goal became, what is our exit plan? So when you reach that age, and I couldn't see what I was going to look like at 54 when I was in my mid-30s, but I had to try. And so we wrote down, okay, by that time we want to be able to have owned our home. We want to be able to, if we actually have made enough capital gain, we want to be able to put it away in a place where it'll just continue to accumulate, which is what we're doing today with self-managed super fund. And so we'd done everything but the one thing we did was we put it on the fridge and made it visible to ourselves every day, and we kept ourselves accountable. Are we getting there? How close are we getting there? So It's setting all those
It
long
seems
term.
almost like a vision board, but without
Absolutely.
the woo woo manifestation piece, that
Mhm.
actually the plan and making it happen.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you talk about the exit plan as like exit from the workforce and a
Mhm.
retirement plan? Is that what you mean
All
by
of them,
that?
all of the above. How are you going to exit with all this money? How are you going to exit that from a taxation and accounting perspective? But also, what are you going to do with that money? What is your life going to look like? What do you want it to be? And an exit plan from your career, post career. What are you going to do with the freedom that you invented, that you built yourself? You know, you spent all these years building.
Yeah.
So that was the exit plan, and it was to be smart about. Okay, yep, well done, Top Gun. You've done all the building of the money. Now you've got to keep it. How do you exit your current life into your new life in a way that doesn't sacrifice what you've worked for?
That's cool. So what you're talking about is how do you retire and cash out or cash in basically
Correct.
all the things that you've created without paying all of it in tax
Yep.
and all the other
Yep.
implications.
I didn't have the answers.
Smart.
I didn't have the answers, but now I knew where to get them. You know, I didn't have the answers, but I knew that I had to do it, and I knew I was always going to be a forever student in this topic.
Yeah.
That I was never going to know everything because it was a ever evolving world. The world of investments and property ownership and all that sort of stuff is ever evolving, and accounting in Australia is ever evolving. So I knew I had to always keep up with, you know, what was going on in that sense. And then we started building our team around us, accountants, you know, advisors, all that sort of stuff.
So you've bought a number of properties over the years.
We did. While Zena and I were renting together, we found a block of land, and that was our first taste of assets. Didn't like it. We decided to sell it. We fired our real estate agent because we didn't think they were doing a good enough job either. And that was our first taste of asset management. And we were like, ooh, so we know this grows in capital. We know about equity. We can now go and look at, and we've now got ourselves in corporate jobs, and we believe that we're really hard workers. You know, we've built up all this experience behind us to know how to navigate the corporate world, plus relationships and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we felt like we knew enough there that we were steadfast in knowing how to move our investments ahead, be able to focus on that aspect of our lives, if that makes sense. So then when we eventually got equity in our principal home, which is what the second block of land that we found that we liked, which is where we're living, we grew value in that home, and then we grew in our careers. We built the career. That's what actually here's the book Chanel was telling me about it just the Aussie writer, the guy, the one that what's his books? Not Paul Clitheroe. The investor.
The Barefoot Investor.
Barefoot Investor. So the Barefoot Investor talks about, and I've got his books too. He talks about if you want to get anywhere in life, you've got to work hard in your career because that's what's going to fund your lifestyle. That's your starting point. Do that really well and keep growing in your career. Try and improve your income by 5% every year. And if you can do that, you can work out the numbers. And so I knew that if I could get my salary up 5% every year, if it was 4%, okay, I'm going to have to pivot and do something different. But if you got your salary 5% and upwards every year, you knew that as your property starts to grow, you also will have this income. And then what do you do with that income? And so we projected out our salaries, me and Zena, in our budget book. We still got our budget books around. Projected out our salaries. We projected out the value of our home, and we knew that we could get another property. So we used the equity in our home to buy another property. We borrowed on the deposit because we then learned about negative gearing through Rich Dad Poor Dad and all the other books that we learned about. If we didn't have the rent that covered the mortgage, we knew about negative gearing and that if you earn more income, it could just, sort of offset. So we learned all about all that stuff and did it. We didn't let that stop us, and we just kept doing it. We knew the formula. and just stuck with the formula. And here we are, 5
Wow.
homes later.
So you didn't do that through a self-managed super fund. You did it. Yeah. And so does that mean that part of the exit plan is paying capital gains tax and stuff
Yeah.
like that?
So we also have an exit plan for that too.
Yeah. And that's taken into consideration.
It's taken into consideration. We know about capital gains tax. I studied about, how capital gains tax here in Australia works. Talked to my accountant. I got advice from them. So I took my accountant on the journey as well. We took our accountant on the journey with what we're doing. We wanted to buy Airbnbs. He was like, nope, don't do it.
Yep.
If you want to do this, and this, if you have time to do that, then that's sure, go ahead. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do Airbnbs. Thank you.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a lot of work that we don't think about.
Yeah, you just think it'll be fun. It seems like somehow romantic,
but
it's not. It's a lot of work.
We romanticize a lot. And this is why it's so important to have your people around you. You have your team around you that can give you that advice, because lots of dreams are there, but sometimes the dreams
they don't equate.
Yeah,
into if you're actually trying to make money, it doesn't equate to making money.
Correct, and it's your time as well that you spend in.
Yeah, time, financial loss of confidence.
Yep,
100%.
So there are things that we turned down as well. We tried to set up our own. We did our own business as well while working full time.
Yeah.
So we gave that a go too.
Paper
Addicts. Yeah. We did graphic design.
That's right.
And we were making business cards and invitations and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. We did that. It was actually profitable. But then, something happened with our jobs had the organization went through a restructure. So we had to change our lives and pivot from that.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah. And that's
really cool. And so you're at a place in your life where you and Zena have met all of these goals, and have you now reset goals for the next 25 years?
Mm-hmm.
Or
absolutely, until I'm 100. You have to be future thinking while living in the present.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about also particularly being financially set up or a really good, solid financial plan for the future also makes you feel very safe now. And to me, when there are those financial concerns, it can have this really devastating effect on your emotional, mental, all well-being, parts of your well-being. It can be very unsettling. So I think that it's really good for our nervous systems to have long-term goals, to be uncomfortable, to then realize goals, to start things, stop things, make changes, all of those things, right, Rach? And then at the same time, like, what is our own recipe for success to be really present that helps us be present now?
Yes. I mean, I'm a family first person. I love big families. I love family. And so I just believe in being close to your family. I think that's really important. And having healthy relationships. And that means not only just your family, but your friends circle as well. Yeah. I do a lot of deducting. So I do deduct and add as I go along, regardless if you're my family member or if you're my friend. If my mental,
going to deduct me? Oh my gosh!
No, I'm not deducting
about people.
you.
Who are you deducting?
I think. Look, if I think my mental state is in danger, number one is here. And one of my posts on Instagram was, "This is your real estate right here. No one can take that away from you. That is the most expensive thing you'll ever own in your life, right?" And I think that if someone's trying to take that away from me, then deduction.
I think that, it's that old saying, isn't it? That like if someone adds value to your life. So there was this really cool way I saw, I can't remember who said it, about like, does that person help like if you are at the flame of a candle, does that person help your flame grow brighter or does it dim it?
Yeah.
And I think it's very simple.
You don't want anyone to snuff your flame out, right?
You really don't.
You want to be burning for as long as you can.
Yep. And that's emotional maturity, to be able to create healthy boundaries with people, to end friendships, to build friendships, to consciously choose who you're doing that with.
100%.
It's definitely adulting at its finest.
One of the things I really want to share here in this space is, I think if you're a young person, the most important thing to do is don't be afraid of being a loner at times in your life. because that's when you learn. And you don't want to put yourself around people just for the sake of being around people because you're afraid of being alone. I think being alone is okay, not forever because you can't live alone. And I'm a true believer of having a relationship, having a partner, a life partner. I'm a true believer of that. But I also am of the belief that it's okay to be alone sometimes. I went through many moments of being alone, and I went through a lot of loneliness as well. And I think it's so important to go through that moments of loneliness, moments of being alone, because those are the things that teach you to appreciate things in life. Because when you're around nothing, you appreciate lots. And I do think that it's important to be around the people that look after you, the people that lift you, the people that light your fire, the people that challenge you. As a young person, the only thing I would say is it's so important to be around those people and to look after your emotional and mental state. Like really protect that. You know, like you said in our last show, like a fortress, you thought that, you know, on reflection, you thought that if you're going to run your business, you're going to get the people around you, protect that like a fortress. I think the same in life for, you know, when you have friends and family around you, do that, because I think that's what's going to, you know, sort of help you fast track what you know for yourself.
I love that. And they are beautiful words of wisdom, Rach. Thank you very much. I also want to acknowledge that, you know, I've got that image of you in that first place in Melbourne that you rented with no furniture, no clothes, like barely making ends meet, paying your rent, to where you are now, only a couple of decades later, really.
Yes.
And you've achieved all of the goals that you and Zena set out to achieve. And that's phenomenal. You said something before about, did you describe it as your happy palace? You wanted to come home to your happy palace?
My harmonious palace, yeah. Harmony.
And you've got that in more ways than one.
Yeah.
You know, I love that you're so equally driven by beautiful, healthy, fulfilling relationships and a love-filled life as much as you are of, you know, creating wealth and success for yourself. And yeah, you're a bloody good egg, Rach.
Oh, thanks, Don.
So I know that, you know, I've said this to you before. I think that Thirstee Coconuts is one of your legacies that you're creating and leaving in the world. To me, it really is a legacy of love. And so thank you for creating this channel,
pleasure.
this show, this platform. It's something really special that you should
My
be really
pleasure.
proud of. And like you, I hope it makes a difference for a lot of people. So
thank you, Donna.
thanks for coming on your own show, Rach.
Thanks for having me.
It feels like a natural time to wrap it up.
Absolutely.
Yes? Is there anything else that you wanted to say before?
No, I think I've said it. I mean, just I think just go and live your best life. Trust your gut. You know, go with whatever your gut tells you. Don't mistrust your gut, because that is what helps guide you. And just surround yourself with really cool people.
Hey, these should be our 3 keys for success that you ask everyone else. So is that 2?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So it was trust your gut, you know, protect your mental and emotional state.
Yep.
And live your best life. You know, do what you think is right for you. I think that's the way to do it. All that wrapped around discipline. So I think discipline is such an important thing to learn, because discipline sustains you, right? You can go off the rails, but I think if you just learn to stay within your means and stay disciplined, be consistent, that is what's going to get you through life and, you know, keep you consistent to meet your goals.
Awesome.
Thank you, Donna.
Congratulations.
Thanks so
Rach.
much.